Creative diversity can't be measured. Creative volume can. And that's the problem. So, today, what we're going to talk about is the paradox between creative diversity and creative volume. So many people are talking about creative volume. It's kind of like the buzzword of 2025. And I wanted to take some time to actually go a little bit deeper. I think it's really easy to go out and tweet and say, you need more ads, you need more content. And like in general, the answer to that is yes, but there is some caveats, and that's what we want to like talk about today, which is my favorite thing, where it's about it depends, nuance, and all that fun stuff. So the thing is that when it comes to creative volume, I think why it's a very attractive idea is the fact that people can measure it. You can measure how many ads you're putting out by the week, month, year, whatever, which then kind of fits well with a lot of like management styles, whether that's like EOS, KPIs, OKRs, or whatever management system you have. It's really easy to say, we are creating X amount of content every single week, every single month, and that can fit into a really great management system for your employees, for your teams, for your vendors, etc. But the issue is that when the CMO is wondering, hey, what's happening with performance? And you go out and say, well, you know what? We've actually just been working on creative diversity. That's not a measurable number, right? The CMO can't just go to the CEO and say, we're working on diversity of creative. The CEO's gonna be like, what does that mean? Right? Like, but it's very easy to understand. Hey, CEO, our team is working on 5 ads a week. We believe that if we can hit this volume, that we're going to get certain winners, etc. There's just like this like math problem that it just feels like it makes sense. It's really easy to understand. And so I think the other part to creative volume and saying, hey, we're creating 5 ads a week is that there's this sense of progress. In general, it makes people feel like they are moving forward. They're making the right moves forward for them. And the CEO, the CMO, they can all see the ads go out the door every single week, every single month. Everybody's happy. But diversity of creative is a lot harder to track and to show. So in turn, there's really no incentive to have creative diversity. But let's take the numbers and like kind of put those aside, right? Let's take away the idea of like 5 ads a week or any of that stuff. And let's look at the time investment, okay? Let's say you're making 5 static ads that feel the same. They feel pretty similar. You'll get those done pretty quickly. But if you want to have 5 static ads that are all very different, they look uniquely different, very different copy, images, etc., it will take significantly more time to write and design the same number of ads. So on paper, 5 ads were created either way, but their impact will be dramatically different. And the amount of time to make those 5 ads will be different. So creating 5 ads is not created equal, because if you do 5 similar ads, it's going to be a lot faster, more efficient than 5 unique different ads. Same volume, but very different outcomes and style of ads that are going to come from it. And anybody that's going to say that you can get 5 unique ads in the same time frame as like the 5 similar ads just has never created an ad or has never done this before, clearly. So it's true that you can have 5 ads, but what those 5 ads are and how they're created and how much time there are can be vastly different, and the impact in your ad account can be vastly different. So because you are tasked with hitting a volume number, your incentive is to hit that number at whatever cost it takes. And usually that cost is going to be speed. So over time, your account will start to look the same because you are trying to get out and pump out more ads week in and week out. And so you, across all the other responsibilities, need to get things done. So you start to make things that are similar. And the part that feels like the kind of, you start to hit a ceiling, is that you start to struggle to scale these new ads. And there are second order effects when it comes to volume measurements that are going to come into play. If you want diversity, you need to do something that's different in your process, which won't happen in your factory of efficient ad creation. And in fact, you might need to go slower and not hit the volume numbers to get the concepts that can actually help you scale. And I think this is what is the hardest part, because it takes courage. It takes courage to go to your CMO and say, hey, you know what? I know you want these numbers, but we need to do something different, which will require us to move slower and rethink how we are communicating within our ads. And in reality, you want to be thinking about, how can you, instead of trying to make 5 ads, how can you take that same amount of time and make 1 ad? And how would that change your process? How would that change the outcome of that ad? What would that ad look like or feel like? And it'll maybe be really hard. And the part that makes this extremely difficult is that, let's say you're pumping out volume, you're getting out all these different ads, but they're all starting to feel the same. Performance is starting to not look so great. To all of a sudden say, you know what? Let's pause and let's do something different when performance is not working is extremely hard. It's extremely hard to go to higher ups and say, this is what we need to do. Even though it's what you need to do, it's not easy to do. And a lot of times what happens is that teams will just lean in. Hey, things are not working. We just need to do more. They lean into this idea of creative volume without actually thinking about the process in which they are creating the ads, or their thought process of creating the ads. And that's hard to go to the CMO to change, because at that point, CMO is seeing the performance, it ain't doing so great, and you're saying, hey, we should go slow. And they're like, slow, we need just more. We need more content. Surely if we do more content, something's bound to work. But that's not always the case. And there's honestly such a hidden cost to creative that is the same. And I see this all the time in sales calls, like with prospective clients and brands. They come to me with a Facebook account full of ads that are virtually looking the same, and same layout, same messaging, same hooks, just maybe some small differences, variations of the images, headlines, but it's very much the same. Like, I'm not seeing anything wildly different across the account. I can kind of glaze over the account and be like, yeah, you're saying the same 2-3 things. You're showing it the same way. Maybe there's a lot of content in there, but it's not different. There's a lot of content, but there's not a lot of differences. And the data kind of tells the story of initial performance might be decent, but then over time, costs rise while conversion rates drop. And audiences just become blind to the ads because they're seeing all the same stuff. The meta algorithm is struggling to find new audiences because you're basically giving them the same ad. If you know, hey, these ads are not working, well, why would you just do the same thing, right? Meta is struggling to find customers because these are kind of not working anymore. You need something extremely different. You don't need more of it. You need something different than it. And I think what happens is that people start to kind of just play the blame game. The platform isn't working anymore. Oh, CPMs are just high now. Our audience is tapped out. The real problem is not Meta. It's creative fatigue from a lack of diversity. When you show Facebook 50 variations of the same basic ad concept, you're not giving the algorithm what it needs to find you different types of customers. And you are fishing in the same small pond with slightly different bait. So let's talk about the cost of efficiency over effectiveness. Here's what happens in most organizations. I'll break it down. There's like 6 kind of like steps that happen. 1, marketing sets up a content calendar with aggressive output goals. 2, creative teams optimize for production speed. 3, templates get created to hit deadlines. 4, visual and messaging patterns become rigid. 5, everyone celebrates because they're hitting their KPIs. But 6, performance slowly declines. Nobody gets fired for making the expected number of ads, but they might get fired when those ads stop working. And that's truly the irony of this whole thing, right? You could have these KPIs and say, I'm supposed to make 5-10 ads a week. You do that, you go to your boss, hey, I'm making the 5 to 10 ads a week. But really, at the end of the day, they are going to hire or keep you hired or fire you because the ads are working or not working, not because you actually hit the 5 to 10. And so I think that's the crux of this whole volume over quantity, quality, all that stuff is because people actually just want good performance. They're saying that by having volume, you will get performance, but that's actually not true. And then at the end of the day, if you set out to have some sort of KPIs of how many ads you're going to make or not, you're not keeping somebody on because they are consistently making you 10 ads. You want to keep somebody on because they're consistently making you good ads that are making you money. That's not based on the volume, right? Of course, having a minimum where you're actually putting out bets consistently for sure. But truly, what is going to make or break a person at a job is not the volume, it's the performance itself. And I think that's really the irony is that people are optimizing for what's easy to measure, which is volume, and we are often sacrificing what actually matters, which is effectiveness. And there's like long-term cost of unmeasured creativity. The lack of measurement for creative diversity can be the thing that actually hurts you in the long run. And I'm still trying to rack my mind around how do you measure creative diversity. It's not extremely I don't have that completely down yet. But I know that, I mean, you can at least eyeball it to start. I think there's other ways in which you can do it where it's like you are, if you wanted to tag your ads based on, certain attributes of the ads. And then you have like, you can show the diversity of attributes within the ads. I think that's a way. I think will eventually be a better way. And I want to build that. But for now, I think, um, the part that matters is that there is no true kind of concrete numbers data way to measure the creative diversity, which I think in turn will kind of hurt you. Um, I think that there's a certain amount of speed and volume that you need across different spend levels. Like, how many ads you need at $100,000 a month is different than $20,000 a month or $500,000 a month, right? And at the same time, you need to make sure you have time allocated towards new ideation and trying new ways to communicate your product, right? So I'm not saying that you've got to make the most unique, different ad for every single ad unit that you create, but you definitely need to allocate a percentage of time that's taking big swings for net new ideas and net new like concepts. And I think there are a few teams that do this well. And most teams are not baking in risk taking into their schedule. And I think we need more of that. We need more teams to be taking risk and, I don't know, allocating time toward that versus having, all these quantifiable goals that may not actually be super helpful. Like, I think it would be better to have less quantifiable goals and have more time towards ideation and thinking and coming up with big ideas that are not going to fit within, a extremely efficient system. I think there's got to be a balance between those two. So let's talk about a balanced creative portfolio, because I think that's really what is going to be most important. So, what if instead of asking the question, how many ads did we make this week, we ask, how many fundamentally different value propositions did we test? Or how many unique visual approaches did we try? Maybe you could ask, how many different customer pain points did we address? How many new hooks did we develop? This requires a mindset shift. So, if you want to actually have creative diversity, you need to kind of shift your mind and how you're operating your creative teams. It means accepting that three truly different ad concepts might deliver more value than 20 variations of the same idea. It means building time for exploration for your process, which I think is key. I think more people need to build in time to ideate and to explore new ideas. It means giving your creative teams permission to fail on some concepts, because that's the only way you're going to find these breakthrough angles or these breakthrough ads. And if you're just so stuck on volume, you're creating these patterns within your team that's never going to be able to break out of it and to find ads that are going to really win. You might find some things that are going to work here and there, but if you just systematize everything, you're not going to be able to get these big breakthroughs. And again, at the end of the day, you are not rewarding people because of the volume. You're rewarding them based on performance. And so you have to have a balance between how many shots on goal are you going to take, and then how much time you're going to take to actually do those. And if you're just slapping away and you're not even thinking about what's going on because you're just trying to do more, 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 you're most likely not going to, find new ways to communicate, and your ads are going to stagnate. Now, I'm not saying again that you got to spend your whole month coming up with one idea and you don't know it's going to work either. So there's got to be this middle ground. But I think more people are moving and optimizing for efficiency and volume without thinking about the second order effects that they can have in their ad account when things start to not perform and they don't have much diversity of creative. And I think most importantly, it means having the courage to tell your CMO, we're going to make fewer ads so we can make better ads. And what if the key to performance isn't the number of ads you make, but how different each one is from the last? That is today's episode of In the Cutting Room. This is a concept I've been thinking a lot about. I actually wrote about this in the newsletter, so this might already sound really familiar. We've got newsletters coming out all the time, so make sure to subscribe. We've got YouTube content. We've got this podcast. We've got a lot of other content coming out, so make sure to follow us along at Gattozzi Studios. I want to know what you think of creative diversity versus volume. What's your take? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll catch you in the next episode. All right, peace.